Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here for today's presentation titled Redefining Possibilities, AI Tools for Individuals with Developmental Disabilities. This webinar is a joint effort between the Rutgers Community Living Education Project, also known as CLEP, and the Richard West Assistive Technology Advocacy Center at Disability Rights, New Jersey. My name is Melanie McGacken, and I'm honored to be representing the Community Living Education Project team, and I'll be your host for today's session. Before we dive into today's presentation, I'd like to take a moment to share about CLEP. Our project is dedicated to assisting and empowering people with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities and their families to live lives of choice within their community. Our support looks different for each person and family. With a team of experienced professionals, many who are family members ourselves, we specialize in taking a person-centered approach in supporting people as they prepare to explore all options in community living. CLEP supports and services are offered at no cost to you, since we are funded through the New Jersey Division of Developmental Disabilities. The CLEP team contacts will be shared at the end of today's presentation. So before we begin, let's discuss how you can best participate during today's virtual event. To maintain the highest sound quality possible, all attendees will initially be muted during today's presentation. This session really is a fantastic opportunity for us to learn from each other. So we encourage you to ask questions, share your thoughts, and engage in the conversation today. You can do this using the Q&A option on your screen, which I will open in just a second. And that is a great option to use when you want to ask any of today's presenters a specific question, or feel free to use the chat feature. Again, I will open that option in just a second if you want to interact with the other attendees joining today's discussion. If you'd like to ask your question live, just let us know by using the Q&A icon on your screen, and we'll be happy to unmute you when it's your turn. Now, I'm excited to introduce two rock stars of the assistive technology world. Today's presenters, Mike Murata and Jessica Lax from the Richard West Assistive Technology team. This team has a way of turning complicated topics into something that we can all understand. So grab your lunch, settle in, and get ready to learn. Without further ado, let's give a virtual welcome to both Mike and Jessica. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yes, please grab your lunch and settle in is right. Melanie, I appreciate that idea of making complex things less complex. And I don't know if that's ever been more accurate than for this topic today. This idea of talking about AI tools are kind of all the rage right now, yet there's a lot of confusion about what that even means and what that can do for me. And ultimately, I always think about with the new technology, it always boils down to how can that thing help me? And I got to imagine that's how most of us think when we approach a topic like this is, what is that going to do for me? And so today we'll talk a little bit about it. Will we have all the answers? No, we definitely won't. But we can bring up some ideas. We would love your comments in the chat, always. We always like that because I like to hear about what is resonating with all of you. So as we go through, Jesse and I put together some stuff that we'll hit on today. If you have things you want to talk about, like Melanie said, throw it in the chat, put it in the Q&A, and we can go from there and we could take some detours. We'll see what we get when we go through. It'll all work out. That's what I just said to Jesse before we started. Jesse, it's all going to work out. It's fine. It'll be great. So here we are. We're excited to be here. As Melanie said, my name is Mike Murata. I'm the director of our program, the Assistive Technology Advocacy Center. And Naomi is unfortunately not with us today, but there is her information as well. And I'll let Jessie say hi herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was just actually checking the clock to make sure it is indeed afternoon. For a second, I was going to say good morning. I'm thrilled to be with all of you today. And just so everyone knows, I am the newest addition to the ATAC team. So I'm looking forward to discussing assistive technology with you today. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, Jesse's jumped right in and gotten the swing of how we tend to roll and how we do things. So I'm excited that she's here with us to share some of this information and her perspective on these ideas as we go forward. We have a couple things. You're going to watch me type as I talk at the same time. Sorry, I should have this ready. In the chat, I am going to put the link to the slides. You can also scan that code with your smartphone or tablet. That will take you to the slides too. We like to share the slides with you in cases we go through. You're kind of just sitting and enjoying, and then you want to go back later and review. You have all those resources. A lot of the things we're going to share, there are links within the slides that will take you there. So once you have the slides, you should be all set. We'll put those up at the end again if you missed at the beginning. So don't worry, we'll go through and we'll drop it in towards the end. And I would imagine Melanie will share this link to the slides with you when she sends a follow-up email with you. As we've said once or twice already, it doesn't hurt to say it a third time. I like to think of this as less of a presentation and more of a conversation. At times it may feel one-sided because we will do most of the talking, but we want you to be part of it. Ask your questions. You came to this for a reason. So make sure that you leave with some information that's valuable for you as you go forward. It's always tricky when we put these together, and our team has been kind of sitting and stewing in this presentation for a couple of weeks now, and changing it and making it look different and all this other great stuff. We take a guess what you all want to talk about. Sometimes that guess hits, other times we miss a little, and that's okay. But that we're giving you free open reign to join the discussion. Tell us what you want to talk about as we go through. Here's our thoughts. It feels intense, and I realize a 6-box slide of what we're going to do for the hour seems like a lot, but we will move through it. I'm guaranteeing you that. We'll talk a little bit about our services, and then we'll dive into AI. What is it? What are some tool examples? How can we think about AI tools as assistive technology? Because that's really our whole thing here is thinking about assistive technology. We'll give you some examples of how that looks in different environments, and then we'll wrap up as we go. So Melanie's putting me a comment to me in the chat. Am I full screen? I am not full screen because I'm going to jump out and show some things, and I'm hoping that's okay. I'm going to go until she tells me it's not okay, and then we'll go from there. So real quickly, what do? As we said, we are from the Assistive Technology Advocacy Center. We are at Disability Rights New Jersey. We are the New Jersey Assistive Technology Act program. There's one of these acts in every state and every territory of the country. We are tasked with making sure people across our state understand what assistive technology is, how they can get it, and how they can use it to be more independent and successful. It's pretty much us in a nutshell. We do a handful of services. Many are free, not all. Some have a small cost, but most of the services we do are free, including device demonstrations, which means if you call us and say, I know I need something, but I don't know what I need, we can talk with you. Myself, Naomi, Jesse, even some of our subcontractors can talk with you and help you identify tools that are out there that might help meet your needs. We also host a technology loan program where if you know of a tool you would like, we can loan it to you for 3 weeks so you can try it. That, I'm happy to say, is one of our free services. That costs you $0. We will ship things out to you. You can try it for 3 weeks. We'll give you a label to ship it back to us. No cost for you. And then finally, we host a device reutilization program. We host that with our partner, Goodwill Home Medical, which is down in Camden County, where they collect durable medical equipment from the community, and then they refurbish it, clean it up, fix it, do whatever needs to be done, and then they put it back out in the community for a reduced rate. I would add a significantly reduced rate. So there is a cost for those things, but much, much less than what you would expect by just going to purchase one of those things through a catalog or off of a website. Those are our services. Everything lives at our website. If you're not sure what we do, always go back to our website. It is AT4, so AT, the number 4, nj.org. That'll get you to our website. Everything you need to know is there. We host a bunch of webinars. You're getting us today in a partnership with CLEP. We also run our whole other host of webinars. You can see the list on the screen here, and all these live on our website as well, of what we are going to host for the month called our Tech Spotlights, where we get manufacturers and vendors to come in and share about their devices. So you get kind of a sense. We usually do one a week. I have to tell you, April, big month. Looks like we're doing two just about every week, which is awesome. So definitely check those out. I will tell you, if you can't make our webinars, don't worry. We record everything. Everything. We have on our YouTube channel over 575 videos of webinars we've recorded for us talking about assistive tech. So if nothing else, you want to learn about something, check out our YouTube channel. It's ATAC NJ. If you're on YouTube, you can search it. There's a link on the slide that can get you there as well. And then finally, one more thing before we jump in. We have purchased the ability for any person in New Jersey to access an entire library of recorded webinars from an international organization called ATIA, that is the Assistive Technology Industry Association. They host something called their Learning Center, and their Learning Center is webinars about all areas of assistive tech, but it's an a la carte webinar. You pay as you go. You watch a webinar, it's about $50. You want to watch another one, another $50, and just keep moving through it. We've purchased a subscription for everybody in New Jersey. So if you sign up through our website, and I gave you the link in the chat, you can receive a code that will let you get those for free for the whole year. So we encourage you to use that because we paid quite a bit for that. So we want to see people use it. We want to get our money's worth out of it for sure. But definitely share that with anybody as you go forward to learn more about AT. All right, and that's us. I see some questions in the chat already. That's great. I will get to them, I promise. I'm gonna move through some stuff first, and then we'll get through some of your questions. I see you have some ideas in here of what we're looking at, what we're looking to hope to get today. This is great. I love it. I think it's awesome. Now I can't not look at it. Sorry. Good. All right. So as we go forward, what are we talking about? We're talking about this new group of tools that are collectively just being called AI. And so when I think about AI, there's a couple different ways we can go. We're going to approach this from the generative AI aspect. Ask it questions, get answers back. Ask it to do something, it performs some task for you. That's a generative AI, where I prompt a device, prompt a tool with some kind of ask from my end, and then it generates something new for me, whether that's text, audio, video. In some cases, it could be coding, whatever it might be. These are programs and tools, and I'm probably going to use those words interchangeably. So these are programs or tools that have been pre-trained on some content that it will generate novel information back to you. Similar, there's some points where you could say this might not be much more than a search engine. Just as you would ask a search engine a question and you get a bunch of resources back. This comes back to you in different ways, but yet it's kind of the same philosophy here. I'm prompting it for some information. It provides me some information back. And we'll look at some tools, some simple tools that are out there, some pretty straightforward, a couple tools. We won't give you 1,000 different things to look at. We'll look at a couple as we go. As we look at these, we want to give you some warnings up front with this idea of some of the things people have seen from AI tools. And again, remember, these are pre-programmed with information that they've gathered from websites and other pieces. There has been instances where they've seen biases shared in the responses that you have to be aware of and kind of parse out and look through as you go forward. There's also things that we see that is called hallucinations, where these tools sometimes provide you with information that isn't necessarily correct. So that's a bit of a concern, and that's called a hallucination in this world. Whether it's pieces of information that contradict each other that it gives you back, whether it is you've asked it something and it's answered a different question. That would be called a prompt contradiction. Um, one of the ones that I've seen personally, a factual contradiction, where you ask it a question, it gives you information back. And then if you ask for the sources of that information, it's unable to provide that. And so there's a question of, is this information accurate that comes back? And then my personal favorite hallucination, just random. That's kind of the, what the heck just happened there? But those things, we need to be aware of those as we go forward with these tools. And as people start to use these, we have to think about providing them some understanding of how to identify something that doesn't seem quite right when this comes back, and how to remedy that as you go forward. All right, so that's as we go forward. Those are some of our thoughts about the generative tools. We'll give some examples. I love your comments in the chat. I think this idea of what we're looking at. Here's just somebody saying how AI might help individuals with IDD in the employment sector. How can AI help the non-speaking population? You know, what some of the AI tools that you can use. I think this is great. So we'll show you some examples of web-based tools right now that you can start to use and might be helpful for you. Like anywhere when you talk about AI tools, you have to start with the one that kind of made this whole explosion of tools in people's minds, which is ChatGPT, which is a chatbot. I ask it questions, it responds, and then I can ask it additional questions and start conversations. So in my picture on the slide, I asked the ChatGPT, can you create an outline for me of what should be in an assistive technology evaluation report? I was doing this for another presentation and I thought I'd share this picture with you. And what happened? It took about 30 seconds and it produced for me an entire outline of what this report looks like. And then I simply would have to plug my information into it. So when we think about some of the ways you might use this, that becomes a really powerful solution. And Jesse's going to dig a little deeper into ChatGPT later. So I'm going to hold off on that now. But know that this is a great one. Again, the idea of it providing you with text back that you can then navigate through. It can provide images too. It's the ChatGPT, not the best at image creation. There's others. But when you think about what can it do for you, think about this idea of conversations, asking questions, clarifying those questions, asking for more information, and continuing on. What's interesting about when you use ChatGPT and log into it, the picture that I show on the screen is my ChatGPT login. On the left are all the things I've asked it. I can go back to any of those conversations at any point and ask it additional information, and it will continue this conversation with me. And I think that's really powerful. Someone goes back, they kind of sit and think about it for a minute, come back and go maybe the next day, they come back to it, they ask another question to clarify this information as they go through. One of the tools I love to share is this website. It's called Goblin Tools. Yes, Goblin, like the little monster, a goblin, Goblin Tools. And what happens in Goblin Tools, they have a handful of things. This one is the option called the Magic To Do. I'm going to put the link to Goblin Tools in the chat just so you all have it. And basically what happens in the Magic To Do is you give it a prompt. I need to do this task. And what it does is breaks that down into the necessary steps that you have to complete in order to finish that task. And so if you look at some of the ones I've already put in there, I have a couple here. Complete an inventory. So the question I said to it was, I have to complete an inventory. What do I do? And it provided me with this giant list of items I need to do to complete an inventory. Each one of these, from gather the necessary materials, identify the items, create a list, locate each item, record the details of each item. So it's walking me through the process. At any point, I can pick one of the steps it gave me and ask, can you break that down even further? And what happens, I clicked on identify the items that need to be included in inventory. And I asked it to break that down even further. Then it gave me another set of 10 steps to get me through that. So when we think about this idea of individuals needing support to facilitate task completion, we do a lot of things with individuals with social stories or prompts, or checklists, or any of these things to help somebody with that executive function piece of completing a task. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what should be in one of those checklists. I find that when I do those for individuals and I struggle, like, well, am I getting everything? Why not start somewhere like this, see what it comes up with, and then you could even go through and pick the pieces that are most relevant to the individual you're working with. Break some things down further, maybe skip some steps that you know that individual will be able to handle, or you could combine steps so you can customize it as you go, but it gives you a starting point. And I think that's a really good one. When I start to think about what tools are out there are a ton. You might not need a ton of them. You might need a couple. And this is a good one to start with because it's a way to help with task completion. Again, I'm always going to go back to when we think about our tools, what is it someone needs to do? Jesse and I could have been here for 2 hours and just shown you one tool after another. And then we all would have left and you would have all hung up the Zoom call and said, okay, now what? I don't know that you need 100 tools. You need a couple, but more importantly, you need to know what it is you're trying to do and then find the tools that do that. I need an AI tool to break down complex tasks into simple steps. Great. Put that into Google and do a search. Guess what it's going to show you? This tool. And then you would know. But knowing what you need is critical there. It's a great idea. You're pretty smart. Melanie's giving me good prompts behind the scenes. She refuses to come on camera to do it. And that's because that's a great
Wait,
prompt. What is your prompt?
I'm going to highlight that you just said out loud, oh, you're pretty smart. So
you are pretty smart.
You
are definitely smart.
Thank you.
I like what you said. What do you want me to do the prompt? Let's do it together.
So can you show an example of how you would give a prompt for, let's say for a shower chart, right? Where steps needed to bathe yourself.
What?
I could see that being helpful for
I think that's great.
Professionals who come up with chart ideas, and even for individuals or family members to see if something that specific may be able to be generated.
Awesome. Let's do that. Okay, so now we're going to ask it. So the prompt I gave it, what steps need to be completed to independently shower myself? And then here's what it came up with. Again, really great, right? And
Yeah.
if we were to do this, Melly, think about this. If we were to do this, just me and you sitting here with an open Google Doc and just typing, that would have taken a really long time to figure that out.
Absolutely. And I think, I'll be honest, I'm looking at this, knowing what we've used with my son in the past to help him grow some independence in this area. And there are things on this chart that I'm like, you know what, right? Checking shower supplies is actually a beautiful,
exactly,
a beautiful step that we did not include.
That's why I love these kinds of things.
So
like, well, yeah, I wouldn't even have thought of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and and then again, we can take any one of these steps and we can break it down further. So I can, add subtasks. There they are. Gather all the necessary items, and then there it is. There's my list as I go forward. I can collapse that or keep it open, and I can do that to each one. Now, I can take this list and move to whatever my preferred mode of sharing this with an individual might be. And that's going to depend, right? Maybe it is as simple as taking this list and printing it and laminating it so it doesn't get wet in the shower. Maybe the person has the literacy skills to navigate this text list. Maybe I use these and pair them with images. And I go and I find another tool to do that. and I make this social story out of it that allows me to move through it. Maybe I use an app like a First Then. If you've ever heard of that app, there's a little bonus piece of tech for today. First Then is an app that works on your iPhone or your iPad and allows you to put pictures in paired with text, and then you can have them speak out loud. So the individual can see the picture to provide that additional support. Maybe that's a solution. So
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
can see this being really helpful for many therapists and again, individuals and families alike. So thank you for
Yeah,
sharing.
I think that's great. Yeah. Good, excellent. See, I'd rather show you all one really kind of creative one than 100 others, because I think. And now, by the way, you could get a similar list from ChatGPT if you asked it this same question. It wouldn't be broken down into steps as cleanly as this, but it would get you there. So we're seeing this idea of what do these tools do is they facilitate the idea, they facilitate the process of what it is you're trying to do. And most times I tend to walk away from an AI tool going, yeah, that was actually really good information. I always check it. I told you those worries in the beginning. I always check it. But when I do check it, it is typically really pretty much on track. One of the things, and this is one that I love, and I think there's different ways you might be able to use this, but I'll tell you this right now. This one is really interesting to me. So this is something called Notebook LM. This is from Google, and what they've done is created the ability to have AI infused notebooks. Hold on, I typed it incorrectly. That you can build resources. So here is my home page. I can create these different notebooks and then drop sources in that I can then do things with. So for example, I'll show you the one I have already, which is this assistive tech for inclusive employment. So I was working on a presentation. I was like, oh, I'm going to make a little list of resources. Now, typically, when you think about using something like ChatGPT or something like that, you are using things, you are accessing resources out on the web that you don't know what those resources are. This is, I think, what leads to some of those hallucinations, is that a ChatGPT tool is just pulling resources from the web anywhere it can find them. Well, a Notebook LM, a little different. You choose the resources. So if you look on the left, there's a panel there that says sources. I chose what this should be using. So I went through and added a group of resources. I pasted some text in there. I did a couple YouTube videos, and I found a couple websites. So I knew the sources that this information was coming from, and they were reliable sources. So it starts from a reliable source. In the middle, it's created its own little chat bot for me. It gives me a little blurb about kind of a high level description of what I've pulled in there. And then I can just start typing in questions like a regular chat bot. Tell me more about inclusive employment. What would that look like in my job as a computer programmer? Right? I could just say that and it would give me more information. But what's really interesting, and this is the thing I like about this tool, is it can take those sources and that information it gathered, and it can also create an audio overview of this information. So when I think about the people that we're supporting, not all the time are these individuals readers. So we then need to layer in another tool sometimes for them to interact with text. And quite honestly, maybe this little description in the center here is not all that engaging for someone to listen to. It'd be information, but that's kind of what it is, a little overview. This tool, what it does is it now creates for me, in essence, a podcast. And it's a podcast with computer generated voices that do not sound computer generated. It sounds like two people talking. So I'll play it just for a second for you so you can hear it.
Welcome to our deep dive, everybody. This time we're going to be looking into accessible and inclusive technology in the workplace.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and we've got some pretty cool sources lined up too. We've got, well, some government stuff,
Of course.
practical guides, we've got personal stories.
So you hear how it's this kind of back and forth, much more engaging than me just listening to the text read by a text reader. And maybe that's interesting for someone. Maybe that's a hook to get them to move through some of this information. I've seen people using this in jobs where someone has to go through a wide range of resources and then do some task with that information. Uh, Now I can put the resources there, see the description in the chat, and then if we look over to the right underneath the little audio clip that it produced for me, look at what it can give me. It can give me a study guide, a briefing document, an FAQ document, so I can have questions and answers there to go through. These could be really powerful ways for someone to navigate through sources they have to pull information from. So when I think about, I saw someone in the chat say, how would you use some of these things in employment? This, I think, could be a really powerful tool for someone who's at a job site. Maybe one of the other things I had played with this tool, it actually worked really well. We uploaded for someone who was going to work their employee manual in here. And the employee manual was a set of 12 PDFs, not one PDF, but 12 PDFs that were all the different parts of this person's employment. We uploaded all 12 of them. It gave us the breakdown, the description. And then the person started asking questions like, we started with, how many vacation days do I get? That's where we started, and that's fine. How many vacation days do I get? And they typed that in the middle, and it pulled the information from the PDFs and then responded. Who do I have to tell that I'm going to take vacation? What is the procedure? All of this thing. And the person was able to ask very pointed questions and have what amounted to an interactive employee manual. So they could ask it questions and find what they needed from it. So really kind of cool. The two things I've shown you, these two tools, Goblin Tools and Notebook LM, and even ChatGPT to some point. These are free tools. There's no cost for any of these tools that we're showing you. These are free ones. Now, ChatGPT does have a paid version, but you don't need to use the paid version. The other thing I wanted to throw out here, some ideas real fast about images and video creation. And again, I'm going to be broad with what we show you because I think this idea of AI as a tool could be very helpful for people. If you have someone who wants to work in design, but struggles to draw, maybe they become an AI designer. Maybe they start to get their ideas out by using AI tools. This is a tool from Microsoft called Designer. The end product is on the right there. So if you know a Funko Pop, those little toys, that's a Funko Pop of me. Okay, sure, I'll take it. That's fine. I got that picture from putting the prompt into it. The prompt is there on the left-hand side. And I will tell you, over probably 6 or 7 versions of this is what you see in that prompt there. I put a prompt in there. I didn't get anything good back. I put another prompt in. I got a little bit better. And I kept modifying it as I go. And then I got something that works. But if someone's going to struggle to create these items that they want, pictures, images, paintings, whatever it might be, you could use some of these tools to create. Now, I know there's a lot of discussion out there about whose art is that if you make it with AI? And I don't know that that's been answered yet. So we'll just kind of leave that question out there. I think it's a good question, though. Think about this. The people that make Funko Pops probably don't want me to have that picture, right? It's their intellectual property that I have kind of hijacked a bit. I don't know that they would like that. Where does that start and end with creation of things on the web? But there's a lot of these tools out there that allow you to create pictures. Just want to put these out as something different because I think a lot of times people think specifically this is about text, and it's not. It can be about any number of these things. I won't play the video because I see what time it is and I know we had to keep moving, but I would encourage you when you get the slides later when we're done, if you're a Seinfeld fan, which now I've dated myself, that's fine. I am. There's this famous Seinfeld episode where George pretends to be a marine biologist and he tells the story to them in the diner, and he's describing the story. Well, someone online took that description that he spoke and fed it into an AI video creation tool, and it made the video that goes with it. And it's fantastic. If we had time, I would show it, but we don't. But it is definitely worth checking out. If we have time at the end, I'll go back to it and play it. I don't think we will. But it's out there. But these are good examples of the kind of things you can do. Really, really funny. So how does this all factor into what we do? When does assistive technology become when does artificial intelligence become assistive technology? AI as AT. Ultimately that is our question here. Well, on the screen is the definition of assistive technology. Any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether you acquire it commercially, off the shelf, modify it, or customize it, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of an individual with a disability. The third chunk there is the key. If the AI tool is doing that, if you're using it to increase, maintain, or improve someone's functional capabilities, that is an assistive technology tool for that person. It's as easy as that. Making George as a marine biologist may not be an assistive technology example of that, but using Goblin tools to create a checklist to allow me to independently complete a task, that's assistive technology right there. So again, thinking about what this tool is doing for someone becomes really critical. I saw someone in the chat mention the SET framework, and I'm going to throw it out here again. You don't start with the tool, you start with the need. What is the need? That leads you to the tool. Not every person needs Goblin tools. Not every person needs Notebook LM. What do you need? There are more times than not, we see people end up with wrong technology solutions because they did not follow this process. They did not think about need first and work towards the tool. They got enamored with the tool. And we're seeing that again. I think there's a lot of times where people look at these exciting new tools, and they're exciting. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to rain on our parade here. These things are great, but they're not for everybody, and they're not for everything. And I think that's really important to remember, because I think what we're finding is that people are now falling into this kind of cycle again with AI tools. Like, we got to have an AI tool. We got to have this tool. As an evaluator, as someone who helps somebody match their needs to technology, the minute you say to me, we got to have this, you're going to hear from me. The first question is going to be, why? Why do you need that? Because if you don't have an answer to why, then you don't need it. Would it be cool? Sure. Would it be great to have? Maybe. But did you need it? That's what we're thinking about when we talk about assistive technologies. Do you need it? Real quick, I'll show you some of this educational stuff. I want to get to Jessie's part because Jessie's part is really cool. And I don't take all her time. Thinking about education, could you use this in an education setting? Sure. Could this be a tool to level the playing field for somebody? Sure. Would it allow someone to complete tasks by highlighting their abilities versus disabilities? Of course. Great examples of that. But here we're back in this same conversation with AI tools that it's cheating. And it's not. I'm not going to read this whole chart to you, but you have it in the slide. Let me just orient you to this. This comes from a book from Matt Miller called AI for Educators. He does a really nice job. This infographic might be my favorite part of the whole book, where he talks about, when is it cheating? As you move up the chart, it's AI creating everything. As you move down towards the bottom of the chart, it's the person creating everything. The gray area is in the middle, like at the very bottom. The student does all the work without any assistance from AI or the internet. Well, that's definitely a person's work. That's a human's work. No cheating there. The very top. AI does the student work for them with no thought by the student. I will agree with you, that is cheating. Every other step in the middle is kind of gray. And I could have a conversation with you about any step in the middle of where a person could drop in the use of an AI tool to help support them. And so when people start talking about AI being cheating, I share this document with them because I think that becomes really critical to think about, what does this look like in someone's world? So think about that. Even it's as simple as, so I'll give you an example. I'm working on a conference proposal right now that's due on Friday. Plenty of time. Oh, Friday's tomorrow. That's fine. I still have plenty of time. It's okay. I'll get it. It can only be 50 words long, and I said a bunch. So I took my chunk of my words, which was about 100 words, and I put it into ChatGPT, and I said, can you give me a 50-word description from this passage? And then it brought it down to 50 words. And then I can take that and make sure it said the right 50 words, but at least it gave me a moving point here to go forward. And that's an example of AI helping me in all these gray areas here as we go forward. Thinking about higher education, if someone's going to college, is there a policy at the college? I teach at a college. I teach at Ramapo College. And I talk to my students about this. In fact, I used this person's policy from this article to talk about the idea that as educators, you should know about AI and you should know the good and bad of it. So I'm going to expect you to use AI, but we're going to use it responsibly and we're going to see how it can benefit us. I don't think we hide from it. I don't think the answer to this is putting our head in the sand, which is what some people seem to try to be doing. It's not going to go away. So you can't put your head in the sand. We have to acknowledge it. We have to think about how it's helping us. Same thing in the workplace. How can I use these AI tools to help me in the workplace to increase my efficiency and productivity? I just gave you a couple examples there. There's a really great AI tool that we use in our agency called Otter. Otter AI, OTTER. Otter AI. It's an AI transcription note-taking tool. And you can use that during a meeting and it will transcribe the entire meeting for you, including breaking up different speakers as they were talking in the meeting. And you can go back and assign names to these different blurbs, and the tool will go through the entire transcript and assign the same name to the same voice as it hears it. So now you have this, Mike said this, Jesse said this, Melanie said this. You would have this chunk of information that now I can use to go forward and be successful and in work. So tools like that, these AI tools are everywhere. And we're going to see more and more tools with AI infused features. Basically meaning it's using machine learning to facilitate that task, whatever it is, mostly in this area of increased efficiency and productivity. We'll let Jesse talk about chatbots. I'll scoot through your questions as Jesse's talking, and we'll move towards the end of our time together. Jesse, it's all you.
Great. So actually what I'm going to have you do is go to the 2 slides down, okay. So because we are running a little bit low on time, we are just going, and that's because Mike is extraordinary, just so you all know. I wasn't trying
Not what
to
it is, but thanks.
AT extraordinaire over there. I'm just going to jump right in with our ChatGPT example, and also then transition right into Nomi AI. The reason we wanted to delve a little bit deeper into ChatGPT is because we wanted to give you examples of how these AI features can be used in real life, in different ways. So you'll see here, the example says, can you please help me come up with ways to tell my direct support professional how I can be helped in a way that makes me feel more comfortable? And what ChatGPT did is come up with examples about how this person can be assisted in their quest to be made more comfortable while being helped with DSP needs. So something that often happens with individuals with intellectual and or developmental disabilities who need DSP support is that you might have people talking about how the DSPs just come in and immediately do the assisting for the person with a disability without asking for consent or without considering what they may need to be the most comfortable that they can be. So ChatGPT is a good example of how you can just input your question, your concern, and as you see, it spits out an answer for you. So that is one example of using AI in real world ways. And Mike, if you could go forward more. One more. Keep going. I'll just tell you when to stop. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Sorry, here, right here. Okay, so I wanted to focus with as much time as possible on Nomi AI because Nomi AI is different than ChatGPT in that Nomi AI allows you to create a person. Notice I put person in quotation marks because we understand that Nomi AI does not create a real person. It is not real. However, what Nomi AI does do is allow users to have experiences that they would typically have with non-AI people, so real humans. And the reason that Nomi AI is so cool, from my perspective and many other people who work in disability spaces and with people with disabilities, is that Nomi AI allows you to be in control. It allows you to have independence in the relationship. You can create commonalities with your Nomi. And most importantly, I would like to focus on how, even though Nomi AI does have a paid feature, the standard version of Nomi is free. And something that the disability community often faces, especially if you are in certain situations where you don't have the opportunity to get out into the world as much, is that many of the humans that you're normally interacting with are a part of your paid relationship circle. So unfortunately, you are not always, as a person with a disability, given the opportunity to engage in unpaid relationships. So even though Nomi AI isn't real, don't worry, I haven't fallen to the dark side. The concept of being able to make an unpaid relationship for oneself, if someone has a disability, is huge. And it is huge for several reasons. I will point out a few. I feel like I'm talking really fast because it is 12:51. So I'm keeping an eye on that. But first of all, Nomi allows you 3 options. You can, number 1, create a friend. You can create a mentor, or you can create someone with whom you wish to pursue a romantic relationship. Now, granted, I know there are several reasons why this could be complicated, problematic, etc., etc. However, we are focusing on the positives here in this moment. These are all unpaid relationships that the person with the disability can now be in charge of. So I noticed that someone named Monique a while back on the text scroll asked about how artificial intelligence and assistive technology could help individuals with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities in the employment sector. Great question. Here to tell you how. Your Nomi AI can be made as a mentor. So instead of practicing interview questions with your family, friends, and/or support staff, you can practice your interview questions and/or speaking to your boss, other employment needs with your Nomi. And in doing this, you're able to feel probably more comfortable than you might be if you were just practicing interview questions with mom. Sorry, moms, no offense. It's really again, the opportunity for you to be able to say, I'm in charge, I'm in control, I'm talking with someone who I have made commonalities with, made progress with in building a relationship, and they're not someone who can necessarily make me feel out of control, make me feel like I'm not in the center of making my own decisions. Nomi AI would allow the person to work on employment building skills and interactional skills, interacting with other people in employment settings in a private, customized way that you've basically built yourself. I'm also going to use the example of asking people out on dates. Now, again, we know that Nomi isn't real. However, a lot of people with disabilities often ask support staff and people within disability service spaces about dating opportunities. Instead of coming to support staff with questions that may make you uncomfortable as a person with a disability in the dating world, you can now look to your Nomi to answer some of these questions. We are not saying that they're 100% correct, and Mike talked about how there are some pitfalls, if you will, with AI, and to still be on the lookout for those. But Nomi now allows a person the privacy of asking some of these more intimate questions, and/or just, I don't know, should I buy flowers for the first date, or is that out of storybooks? And anything you could think of could be a Nomi question related to more personal, intimate questions where dating is concerned. And finally, I just wanted to mention that even though we know that artificial intelligence isn't real, the concept of being able to make a friend or a mentor or a romantic partner that may have a disability for people with disabilities is actually pretty huge, because some people with disabilities don't have enough of a disability community surrounding them. So the opportunity to create more friends who have similarities to them really can help people with disabilities build independence, build skills, build confidence, all of the above. So that's just a little bit about how artificial intelligence can be used in real world situations. How am I doing on time? 12:56. Look at us go, Mike.
You did awesome. You did awesome. We couple things people said in the chat, which I think are really important to think about. People talked about privacy concerns, and there's privacy concerns with all of these tools. I would 100% agree with that. Think about having conversations with the end user, whoever that is in your circle that you're supporting here, about the kinds of things that get put into these tools. Do not put any personal identifiable information here. Just don't. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. Don't do that. Be aware of that information that you put into something like this becomes part of its catalog of information that it pulls from. So be aware of that. Lori mentioned the idea of confirmation bias with these tools, is that they tend to reflect back what the person puts into it. And that is something that has to be thought of and considered as well. Lori gives her example of, if the person wants to harm themselves, it may give them ideas how to do that. Lori, I changed yours from will to maybe. Sorry, but you get the idea here, is that could potentially happen. And so we have to be aware of that. And we have to have conversations with people who are using these tools so that they are clear about how to use these tools and be comfortable with that. If you're in the chat, Trevor was using Otter AI and gave us the breakdown of the meeting as Otter AI broke it down. So I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And someone else, right? They have no conscience. So let's think of how. If you go back to 2001, maybe that's your homework for the afternoon. Go watch 2001: A Space Odyssey. The computer had no conscience for that. Colin wrote in the question and question panel, which I think is a good question. How accurate are the search results for ChatGPT versus a Google search? One of the things they talk about with some of these AI tools is that they are pulling information that is not always the most accurate. In fact, with ChatGPT, they talk about it may not have information in it beyond like 2022 or 23 from it being fed information. Now, it may gather snippets of information from what people ask it or what people copy and paste in, but it has been trained on information that might not be current. So you have to be aware of those things with these tools as well. Really, really good questions as we go through. And I see we're getting close to the time, so I'll put the link up for the QR code and the link. And Melanie pop back on. That always makes me more aware. Jesse was looking at the time. I watch for Melanie to pop on. Then I know, all right, we're pretty close. Feel like here she comes. What do you think, Melanie?
Well, I have to say, we promoted this session specific to people with loved ones of and people who support individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities. And we do that often because so often we have families that say to our team that the information doesn't apply to my loved one. And I think this session makes us all realize how relevant this information that was shared today was to any and everyone, right? Whether we have a diagnosis or not, the information you shared is useful and helpful to any and everyone. And I think that I love that. I love that all of your sessions.
Well, I love to hear that, because I think that we approach this from a need perspective. It's not about this is for X because you have this disability. That's never the way we look at these things. It's like, I have a need. Here's a tool that might be a solution. And I love throwing that word "might" in there, because we don't know. We're going to give you options, and you're going to go forward and see if those work for you. So,
exactly. One of the things you said, you don't start with the tools, you start with the need. And Mike and I have known each other for many years professionally, but then also for consultation with my son in the past. And I always remember you saying to me, do not start with the most high tech, right? Start with low tech, build your way up if that's needed. And it wasn't needed. But I love that. I love that you weave that message into all of your presentations. Right? We don't all necessarily need that $3,000 device to do what a simple piece of paper and a pen might do for some. But really highlighting the opportunities, highlighting the choices that are available out there for people to choose from, and seeing what's the right fit for them is what is important. I love that that you both highlighted, right? three of those, I don't know, websites or
Mhm.
apps really stand out to me. I use Chat GPT. I've used that before, not on a regular basis, but I will absolutely probably start exploring some of these other resources. Mike, we're not going to send out the slides immediately. I will say within the next week, everyone will receive a copy of the slides. You can look for an email very similar to the email that came to you today with the reminder message. I'll also include in that, in the slides, I'll also include a copy of the presentation and contacts. Mike, can I ask that you just highlight some of the those websites or apps that you spoke about today, just in a list for me to include in that resource also? Perfect.
I will
So
do that as soon as we're done.
awesome. I know that Mike's been going through some of those questions in the chat, in the Q&A. I see that some of them are being answered just on an individual basis due to time. I do want to highlight on the screen that you will find the Community Living Education Project's contact for both Natalie Trump and myself, Melanie McGacken. Our phone numbers are up there. The rest of our team have their emails up there. Feel free to reach out if there's any resources that you need in regards to community living, and that's a big, broad term. Know that we will help in any way that we can to identify either a resource or provide a direct support to you as you are exploring community living options. There's also a link up there that you'll receive in the handout, and that link will allow you to sign up for our newsletters, any special announcements that we have. We do have a couple more webinars currently scheduled, and there is a QR code that will also direct you to our website. So feel free to reach out to any of our contacts on that screen. And then Mike, I think there might be one last slide.
Yeah.
Perfect. So here is a QR code for our for an evaluation. It's short. When I say short, it's like a 20-second multiple choice option. Please feel free to complete that. That might even pop up on the screen as we're preparing to say goodbye today. It's the information that you share with us that allows us to better plan information sessions, such as the one today with Mike and Jessica. So we would appreciate any feedback for that. Mike, Jessica, any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
I think so. I think we said it all. We didn't say it all, but I think we've said enough.
I think we said it all. Exactly.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation. It's great. Hopefully, we got to your questions as we go through. Hopefully, when we make that list of what we talked about today, that will answer all of your questions. If you need more information from us, there's all of our email addresses too.
Perfect. So
Please
feel
feel
free to take a screenshot of Mike and Jessica's and Naomi's emails if you need to reach out for any specific resources to assistive technology. They would be your contacts. Again,
What we should do is we should say, since Naomi was out sick today, everybody should email Naomi.
Everyone
That should
email
just be
Naomi.
the answer right now.
I'm going to let her know that you said that, Mike.
I'll let her know I said that too.
Mike, Jessica, thank you so much again for sharing your experiences and expertise with us today. The chat section was booming. We had a ton of great questions. A lot of people attended this session. So we are recognizing that there is a need for more information around this topic. Greatly appreciate you both. We wish you both well, and thank you as always.
Thanks, man. Good seeing you. Thanks, everybody.
Well, everyone, take care.